When you think of oysters, your mind probably takes you to fancy restaurants, champagne, and crystal chandeliers, or a wobbly stomach. These shellfish were once in large abundance around the UK and were even considered common food and would cost you pennies. However, their number around the coast of the UK has reduced by 95% since the 1800s due to habitat loss from dredging, overfishing, and disease. The native species has been replaced by invasive ones for their shorter growth time to market size and are farmed using damaging techniques such as dredging.
Although seemingly idle, these shellfish offer more than just a wave of flavour to our taste buds. They are the ocean's silent green hero. Oysters have the ability to filter 200 litres of water a day, filtering sediment that floats at the ocean's bottom, letting light reach the seabed, allowing more growth of seaweeds that can then photosynthesize, providing more oxygen to the water around it. Without them, light would be blocked, the plants choked of light, and in turn, fish starved of food. So, our question is, how could introducing more oysters aid in restoring health to our seas?
I've been working for Blue Marine Foundation on native oyster restoration since 2018. Been working in that time primarily in Essex in the River Blackwater as part of the Essex Native Oyster Restoration Initiative. There we've been working with sort of a collaboration of different organisations, including academia, government regulators, environmental NGOs, and importantly the local oyster industry. Only since 2019 have we been doing sort of active seabed restoration, deploying what we call culch, which is stone and old shell material onto the seabed. When the oysters reproduce and spawn, release a larvae that goes out into the wider water system and is looking for somewhere to settle. Over time, we've lost most of this suitable culture material, so we've been putting it back. We're now at over 15,000 square meters of sort of active seabed restoration there, and still trying to monitor that work, learn from that, scale up, share those learnings with other restoration projects. Native oysters are fantastic for a marine environment. There's sort of two sides to the benefits to them. There's the sort of social, sort of more people-based side of benefits, and then the environmental side of benefits. So a huge range of ecosystem services. Obviously socially they're ingrained in the culture in the UK. As I was sort of saying, in Essex there's a history of cultivation that goes back thousands of years, even to a couple of hundred years ago when they were sold in the hundreds of millions in London on every street corner. And they're a big part of a cultural identity, support livelihoods in coastal communities. But then on the environmental side of stuff as well, they're a filter feeder. So as they feed, the water's coming in, passing over the gills, and they're removing particles of food from that water, getting better quality and clarity of water from the oysters being there. That sort of draw down through that process as well. They're helping to remove excess nutrients from the water. So you think issues like eutrophication are being dealt with by these oysters, particularly when they're in high numbers. But really importantly, oysters are what we call ecosystem engineers. So they're not just an animal living on the seafloor, they actually change and improve the habitat around them. So wherever we find native oysters, we find an increase in other species. So all those sort of small species that want to come and find somewhere to hide and somewhere to feed, small crabs, shrimps, juvenile fish, they'll all come in, live in and around the oysters. As the oysters sort of grow, they're building on top of each other and creating little gaps and spaces between them, this sort of rich 3D complex habitat. So it's really vital sort of habitat for other species, which then in turn, if you've got these primary species, it draws in bigger species that then also linking back to the sort of human social side of it, those bigger species often have a commercial value.
So, you can really begin to see and appreciate the benefits of oysters on the marine ecosystem, these silent, selfless green heroes. We can all aid towards this by supporting and promoting charities such as Matt's, and will hopefully aid in the improvement of underwater wildlife, the fauna and flora, and overall water quality.
In conclusion, we need to work together with organisations and fishermen for increased awareness of the utility that oysters possess and the balance we need to strike between using them for recreational purposes and as a tool for cleaner waters.